Hey guys, it's Pedro back with another interview covering VCT America Stage 2. For this occasion, I'm here accompanied once again by valyn, the IGL for G2 Esports, who are coming off of a 2-0 series over Sentinels at the end of their regular season to thus clinch the second seed and be at the second round of the upper bracket in said playoffs. And so, valyn, really do appreciate you taking the time for another conversation. It's always good to talk to you once again, especially after another victory. So, that said, taking down Sentinels, plenty of anticipation that was hovering around that series. What's the feeling like for you?
Definitely feels good to come out with that win. It helps us a lot for our road to champions now that we're in the top 2 seeds. I would say though, nothing feels too great until I lock champions. So although, I'm going to enjoy the night and, sleep easy knowing I won today, it's still very focused for the ultimate goal of making that tournament.
For sure, with this W, you are now one step closer to that goal. Now you're in a position where you only need one more win, because sure, you guys are within the top four of championship points, but still, you just got to take care of your business in what's in front of you. So, that said, for you to talk about so much, and also for other teammates that I've been talking to so far this year, of champions being the goal, making champions being the goal, how good does it feel for you to be so close now? Because now you are literally one win away from making it happen.
I mean, like I stated, it does feel great knowing that we are progressing one step forward for this goal. But really, I think the mindset that I have and that my teammates have is there's no point in being too happy, or there's really no point in being ecstatic over any of these wins until we make it. Like, you can go this far and lose 2 games and you're done. Your season's over. It doesn't matter. So, we're still kind of just locked in that way of like, guys, nice win versus Sen, but we're probably gonna have to rematch them. So we got to lock in even harder and beat them even harder and make that tournament. So, I'm just excited to be in this position now that we avoid elimination. It gives us a better chance. But really, it's not going to feel great for me until I'm locked in on that spot.
For sure, for sure. And now I want to talk about a little bit about the series again, against Sentinels. The 2-0 series, all things considered, a majority of fans would not have expected for the series to end 2-0 at your favor. At the very minimum, they would have seen this series go at least a third map. But still, for you guys to win 2-0, it shows the level of the level that you guys are currently at over Sentinels. And so, that said, just walk me through both maps. Dominating and buying, sure, with the tech pause in addition to that, but still, and then continuing the momentum of Lotus. How you guys were able to make it happen from your point of view.
I think a lot of credit goes to the coaching staff, Josh RT and Shaq, because they prepped us very well for all the possibilities of compositions that Sentinels can throw at us. We were aware of, their deadlock possibilities, their deadlock cipher possibilities. They've shown a lot of flexibility in that aspect. So they prepped us really well for this match. Credit to them. In the moment, I think we were very calm-minded and we were playing our fundies pretty well in the first map, especially. That's why we looked pretty dominant, especially on our attack half. Going into Lotus, I think they were able to mentally reset and, play a really strong Valorant. We ecoed them after losing pistol on attack. I just, made a call to take the TP across, and, we made some magic happen. And if we didn't do that, maybe the game shifts a bit because it was so close. Trent also had big clutches. So we definitely have to watch that footage back and try to become better because, any given day, the score on map 2 could have been flipped, and who knows what would have happened on map 3. So I think that, we did show a dominant fashion today, but we kind of got the better end of the stick on especially that map 2. So, we're just gonna have that mindset of, hey, great win, but let's lock it down and become even better for upcoming matches.
What was your reaction to both of the of the deadlock compositions that Sentinels played? Because of course, over in Lotus they already played it one time earlier on in stage 2, but in Bind, it was, I believe it was the first time they showed that on stage within the server. What was your reaction to it? What was your impression of it? And how did you guys kind of work around it?
Yeah, I'm not really an IGL who needs the prep work in order to call well in the match. I was feeling very confident. We played against harder compositions. I don't think the deadlock on Bind is that great. So in terms of actually going into the game, we felt confident. we had some scrims against teams that ran deadlock on bind. Like I mentioned earlier, like shout out to the coaching staff for trying to prep us for that. And so we were pretty aware of the possibilities of the comp and what the general approach is. And we just played clean, man. We played clean fundamentals, and it didn't really throw us off too hard. We just stuck to our roots and came out with a clean win on that map. Second map, I would say we do have exposure to that comp, but they played it really well. We were fortunate to have a great defense, which gave us more of like a buffer on attack, because that is a very defensive-sided comp, right? And, you know, we kind of got checkmated sometimes here or there on the deadlock util, so that was difficult to deal with. But nonetheless, like, we came out with the win, and especially when you play against a comp for the first time, sometimes it can throw you off or you don't really know what to expect. So the fact that we were able to play 2 new comps in an official and win both maps, I think shows a lot of how adaptable we are as a team and how we can call against anything.
Sure, I mean, there's plenty of conversation within the broadcast, you know, especially from like people like Sideshow Ball and Brand, you know, the casters talking about how good you've been calling and stuff like that within this match. I mean, given what you said about just having to adapt and having to adjust within stage 2, and including this match, how have you kind of seen the adaptation of your calling amidst trying to deal with new compositions, as you've been saying so far, and then everything around that?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I've become a better IGL this year by miles. Just having exposure to playing against VCT teams and officials. You know, if people remember, we were losing back in kickoff with bad attack half, so I had to go through that learning process of, you know, you got to lose some games and watch the VODs back, learn, kind of get that sting a little bit. But I'm someone who I feel, you know, humbly, that I can always adjust my play and I can always get better through wins, through losses. Whatever the result is, I always take a piece of the lesson from it. And that's why I'm able to be so adaptable in these against different compositions, against different play styles. Like, I feel very confident, and I think my team trusts me a lot with that. So it kind of gives them a bit of confidence too, that, hey, no matter what we play, Jake's got us. Like, just focus in on our crosshairs, focus on our fundamentals, and we'll be able to close these games out. That's something I always preach to them. So shout out to my team for keeping up all the things we practice and the fundamentals. And then in terms of the calling, what we have to do on a macro level, I'll always be able to hold it down for us. You know, some games are difficult, right? I have to maybe think of something else or adapt, and that's totally normal. We're on the same page of, guys, sometimes we're going to lose rounds when we play different comps, but it's all about how do we bounce back. If we just lose rounds and we're not thinking about the next step or the next round based on how they're playing their composition, we're just going to lose totally flat. But we're a team that we're good at comebacks. We're good against different comps. We're good against different play styles. So really, whatever they throw at us, as long as our micro details are good, like our fundies, our peaks, our tradability, we should be able to close a lot of these games out.
Definitely a massive far cry from how you guys were preparing, well, for the better, you know, from earlier this year. Because I remember, you know, you guys weren't able to just close out certain maps earlier on in the year, you know, especially looking at kickoff, and then taking down Sentinels, and then, you know, not being able to carry over to playoffs of that event in kickoff. But still, you know, it's still a massive difference to see that to now. Obviously, like I said, for the better. That said, you know, what do you think is the one thing that you feel pushed this team to this current level, in its current form? That's it, from kickoff to now, because I've been able to talk to yourself and plenty of other your teammates from that point to now. So, from your point of view, what do you think is the one thing that kind of stood out in making that transformation happen?
I think earlier in the year, we just needed some adjustment period to VCT. You know, previously we were just playing in our house and challengers. We had a little bit of LAN experience when we went over to Brazil to qualify for this, but it's just an experience thing, man. At the beginning, we were getting shaken a little bit. We couldn't close out maps. We had some confidence problems. And, you know, slowly but surely, we just kept trusting the process. I think Josh RT has a great grip on how to coach a team. And just instilling the fundamentals like it's the back of your hand. And it just makes the performance a lot easier in the match. So every day we've been harping on fundies. If we have one bad day of practice and in that aspect, we're VOD reviewing for an hour. We work really, really hard for this, man. Like, regardless of what happens in stage 2 playoffs, if we go to champs or not, I'm content because we worked the absolute hardest that we could this year in order to achieve these results. No one was expecting us to come this far. Even some of our players probably didn't expect us to be one of the top teams, right? But when you trust the process, when you trust your teammates and you keep pushing forward every single day of practice, I'm not very surprised that, you know, it kind of shakes up like this towards the end.
I want to ask you about the fact that recent changes was made to tier two, and how teams that are ascended to tier one are now able to stay there for an extended period of time, not just having to be there for like 2 years and such. From
Yeah.
last year, I feel a big part of that is because of your team's performance. Just having to show what these kinds of teams are able to do. And so, how much of an effect do you feel, your performance has then led to just how ascension teams are now able to go forward for subsequent years in the future and having a chance to stay within tier one?
Yeah, I'm very glad that Riot made this change. And being in VCT already, I got the better end of it because we had the first year to be able to just adapt to it. Maybe in a different time, maybe in a different like world, we're not one of the best teams in Americas, and we're towards the bottom where we just get relegated. So I'm grateful that we had the bonus year essentially, which the other teams won't. But I think that we showed this year that if regardless of being in Ascension or not, especially when franchising was first announced, like it wasn't based on team results. It wasn't based on how good you are as a team. It was just based on organizations. And unfortunately, our previous team, the Guard, just wasn't really up to that standard, so we weren't able to get into VCT. But it doesn't really take away from the players, right? And we kind of shown that even if you're from tier two, you can always learn, and there is talent out there. I think especially the early years of Valorant, it was kind of like recycled talent between the teams. But I think we were one of the catalysts, especially very early, even before like when we qualified to Masters Reykjavik back in like 2021, and all of our results moving forward, we've kind of shown that, hey, like new blood can be really good in this game. You don't need prior experience. You don't need a decade in esports to be good at this game. And I'm glad that Riot made this change to be more like performance incentive, right? Like before it was just, oh, you get your 2 years, you're out. And people frame the question of like, yo, what if this team is winning champions, for example, or what if we won Master Shanghai and you just get demoted? Pretty unfair for the players and for the team. So I think they made the right call with doing this change, and I'm excited that maybe I can stay here for a bit longer.
For sure, and at the very least, you've been actually doing well to at least secure, or I'm not sure how best to describe it, but more so just kind of proving yourself that you do belong in tier one so far, and also for the future. That said, I'm gonna wrap up the interview right here. We're running out of time. Valyn, I really do appreciate you taking the time once again for another interview. Hopefully, you guys can keep it going for playoffs, and hopefully, I can talk to you again. Once again in the future, man.
Of course. Thank you, Pedro.